Okay, welcome back to GeeCON. I think the last time I was here in 2017, I guess, because pandemic was that was worked from home the entire time, and yeah, but I already got questions now in the hall. What's new? Nothing is new. My source code is exactly the same. So I just renamed Java X to Jakarta. So this was on one evening search and replace, and this basically was. And the only difference since pandemic is I do 100% clouds for various reasons. But reasons are not scalability, it's also not performance. Different reasons like encryption, compliance, disaster recovery, something like this. So we are more or less forced to go to the cloud. And now I thought, okay, if we go to the cloud, then go really to the cloud. And what I would do with, this is what I like on premise with my application servers, Payaras, Whiteflies, Quarkus, how to migrate the ideas or even visions, to the cloud. And this is the talk about today. And I'm back from Basel 1. This is another conference, not as nice as this one, of course. This is what I also said in Basel 1, that Basel 1 is way better than this one. But what I did a 3 hours workshop about serverless, and my personal goal was to explain with no questions left how I see serverless and how it works. And then yesterday in a train, I created some slides. So I hope you will understand. If not, after the show, you come to me and we'll talk as long as possible, so you will understand completely what I mean, right? So this is hard to explain, but it's very, very simple. So the talk today is about thinking in serverless, and I also plan to show code. It really depends on your questions. Okay, so EHEX Industry was fun. Was a conference, and a conference someone asked me, are you working for the EHEX company? And the EHEX company is just a domain. And I said, actually, cool idea. So I registered EHEX and Industries, and there are just links to my GitHub and Twitter. I don't have a company, I'm just a freelancer. So I still have fun with Java, 100% Java on the backend. Really like Java, nothing changed. And I actually hack more than ever before. Spend entire time with Java right now. So I'm not a manager, not a Scrum Master or other master, just Java programmer. So, and there are nice podcasts. We had lots of podcasts here with community, and already 260 episodes. So if you have nothing to do, you can listen to 260 hours about Java, if you like. And yeah, maybe quad speed is faster, right? So there would be almost singing then. This would be heavy metal, I think, right? So in four speed, yeah, could be. Any questions left? EHEX TV. And daily YouTube shorts, just for fun. Yeah, I write just code to show how great actually Java, this is German, how Java is. And I have to admit, sometimes I write the shorts in boring meetings. This is also online meetings. No one sees what I'm doing, so this is a very good time, to write a short. Yeah, and you look, focused. Okay, some AWS workshops, but it doesn't matter. Motivation. So what's the motivation of all of this? The motivation is basically that. Oh, this was not, the motivation is here in the lower corner, right? So what it means is, in the cloud, this is the first difference to on-premise, a huge difference. And what I do, I spend, at the beginning, the first day in calculator.aws to calculate prices. So cloud architectures without cost don't make any sense. Because on any cloud provider, you have 20 services which do basically the same, but they cost something different. So what happened is I tried to calculate the costs, and I show my clients this. And what it means is Quarkus running 2 transactions per second with 2 gig of RAM entire month will cost you roughly, 15 euros a month. And what it means is, for most enterprises, you don't have to pay anything from boring create, read, update, delete application. And this is one of the reasons why I actually code more than ever, because we showed this to management, and management is about saving costs. We do this. So I do it at a time, and I'll show you today a little bit what we are doing. And this had a lot of implication on everything. For instance, for years, I said it was crazy, that our test or development environment are different to production, for instance, right? There also, I don't know, who remembers javaworld.com page? Java World, yeah, very good. Was a nice, someone bought it, of course. Now maybe there are lots of ads or whatever is on it. But back then there was an article that most of the project fail, or many project fail, how many I forgot, this was 15 years ago, that the development is different to production. So with serverless, what I showed today, we have the unique opportunity to have identical environment. So every developer can have exactly the same environment as production isolated, and will cost you nothing, or if you hack the entire time, 2 transactions per second, 15 euros a month. Okay, cloud native and green. Next motivation for management. I show it all the time. It's not directly related to this talk, but it's still interesting. Java does extremely well in the cloud. What it means is Java without GraalVM. Without GraalVM, just the JVM. Is number 5. I don't know what happened. Number 5 after ADA. So ADA is a little bit better. So if you like to save more energy, you can learn ADA, for instance. And is also, from the performance-wise, is also actually great. Number 5. I have to admit, Rust is better, right? But what surprised me, Go is not better. And what really surprised me, Python, Node.js, and Ruby are 35 times worse. Right? So if you care about environment, you have migrate everything to Java. Right? So this is very, very good news for our conference. Now, memory-wise, and by the way, this is the study. You can look at the study and take a look at the study. They tested several algorithms. There was a really serious thing, right? And I just copied the summary. You get the summary about everything. So this is somehow important because at least in Germany we get a a good law actually next year in April 2024. I always forget it. It's like Lieferketten something Gesetz. And what it means is in April 2024, the German companies will have to show how many CO2 data center and everything actually consumes. And fact is, with serverless, we can show this. With bare metal is harder. Because on all cloud providers, you can check the box and you get the CO2 footprint calculated on the invoice. So basically, problem solved. So time revolution is this is how I started, Sun Java Web Server. Who knows Sun Java Web Server? Wow, that's cool. So we have to talk because this was the very first. So it was, why you know it? Yeah, this was before everything. This was 1997. You are not that old. So you are cheating. Okay, Sun Java Web Server. It looked like this, and yeah, it was the first ever server. I waited, the entire night to download it from Sun because I had to build a CMS system, and they wanted that I do it with CGI, Common Gateway Interface, and Perl, and I had no idea about neither CGI nor Perl. I only knew Java. I was like, okay, maybe will work. Then we had J2E application server with web container and EGB container separated because many architects believed it scales better. And then they said, okay, it doesn't scale better, so we can do one thing. And then they said, okay, EGBs are no more the thing, so we rename EGBs in CDI. It's basically very similar, but you need more annotations to achieve the same. And then you have microprofile runtime with multiple servers, and then got microprofile runtime with one server. This is actually what I did the most. And by the way, I don't make a huge difference between microprofile and Jakarta E. For me, is one thing. So I mean, both are friends, right? Who cares whether I invoke a box from Jakarta E or from microprofile? Most of application servers can do both. And this is the difference. So the first question from nice guy from EclipseCon. What's your name actually? I forgot. Carlos Santos. Yeah. He follows all the conferences. And so the first question is about portability. The cool story is not code is always portable. What I show you today, it is basic Jakarta E code, which happens to run on Quarkus, could run partially on Micronaut, and you can launch it on AWS Lambda, on Azure Functions, on Docker container, and on bare metal. But the talk is about Lambdas, because I do Lambdas right now. But next year I will do a little bit more Azure Functions. Maybe next talk I will talk about Azure. But now, But if you, there's like a table. If you search AWS mapping to Azure, there's a table with AWS services and Azure services. The names are different. This is what's confusing, right? And this is what I talk about. So actually, the project can run everywhere. Interestingly, I think in the last 3 years, I never use containers anymore. And I think it's true, or at least 2 years, maybe even 3. Why not? Because containers are painful from security perspective. Always compliance, we have to review from which super Docker image it is pulled. If you go serverless, it is how it should be. How it works, you just say, I would like to have Java 17, and the cloud provider patches Java for you. And the cool story is, or the funny story is, I was asked for the like compliance review, what we are doing. So like, there's nothing to review, it's Java 17. Yeah, but you have to write a paper. So I wrote a paper, we're using Java 17, over. No operating system, no, nothing, because you only say Java 17, how it should be. And by the way, if you think about this, it's exactly what I talked to you know, the last maybe 6 years ago. I have to rewatch my own talk about Glassfish application servers, Payara and Whitefly. I had a war. I ship it over to different departments. They install it for me, was serverless. Actually, my entire history was serverless because in larger companies, I was not allowed to touch the server. So I was serverless, right? And now the server, I don't even see the server, so there's even more serverless as it was before. Back then, I could at least saw, you know, sometimes the admin console. So technical, the main difference between serverless and application servers or Quarkus is the app server runs with threads. So Project Loom is great. And for serverless AWS Lambda, Project Loom doesn't make any sense because you have one thread per request, more or less. And you scale with processes. So it's complete different architecture. If you have 1,000 requests per second, you get 1,000 processes per second. Every process gets isolated stack, VM. So what it means is also this AWS Lambda, for instance, is more secure than Docker container. Why I'm talking a lot about security? Because I have to justify myself several times why I go to the cloud or whatever. So I found all the papers, so I know about it right now for marketing reasons, right? But what's interesting, AWS Lambda is more secure than Docker. There's a white paper about that because it is the stack is like a virtual machine, but is not shared with anyone else. And with Docker, you share more. That's the truth. So serverless for enterprise devs. Who knows ModJK? This is this beautiful slide. Very good. So, and who else? No one. Only you. Interesting. Oh, very good. ModJK, ModProxy, ModCluster were different names for it. And this beautiful slide I created yesterday in Train. So if I would travel a little bit more, I will even build in some animations. But there was no time for it. So, but how it worked all the time? What is missing is a hardware load balancer usually. So there was a kind of a hardware load balancer which talked to Apache, usually two Apaches, and the ModJK, ModProxy, and ModCluster were plugins, still are, in many companies still used. And they were worker properties, a property file, where you specified, hey, Apache, if you see this path, this is not a static page, forward it to Whitefly, or Glassfish, or whatever. Many companies are still running this in production. Understood? So what it means is, that what Apache does, it receives the requests, and it somehow creates an event from the request and forwards the event through a binary protocol or HTTP to Whitefly, Payara, or Java Web Server, Sun Java Web Server. And these servers extract the information and invoke JAX-RS. Everyone understood? Yeah? Interesting, because if I do the same with serverless, I tried to explain it, it took me exactly 1 hour to do this. So now, this is Lambda. Exactly the same. So the only difference is this HTTP API gateway. You need something to have a nice DNS name. HTTP API gateway, or application load balancer, or VPC lattice, or REST API are the first box. This first box is configured not with worker properties. It is configured with so-called proxy integration. So you say /star, there is no static assets, forward everything to Lambda. Okay? And I'm speaking here about Lambdas, which are exposed as a microservice. Okay? So they have a REST endpoint. Okay, cool. So the other difference is that the event is more or less standardized. So there is a schema for the JSON, so you know what is coming. So there are actually 2 versions of it. And now it comes. This event is sent to the Lambda runtime from AWS. The Lambda runtime wakes up and passes this event to a stream handler from Quarkus. Quarkus reads the JSON, invokes JAX-RS, and this is the entire trick. It means you don't know that you're running on AWS Lambda. This explains your second question. So the source code, you can have standard Jakarta JAX-RS code, and you don't know that you run as a Lambda. Questions? So now you understood. So what is serverless? It is actually, there is, and this HTTP API gateway, you are not installing it. You are only saying, I would like to have one. and or have one, not have one. I would like to configure my space, and it's already running per region. A region is a multiple data centers, is always on. And and it waits and receives HTTP events, creates the events, sends the events to Lambda, Lambda parses it. So why Quarkus or Micronaut? Because what they are doing, they are parsing the JSON without using reflection, and they are very fast. And the faster it is, the more cost-effective it is. That's all. So we could also run WebSphere there, but it will be more expensive, because it will start, and we have to wait until the coffee is done, and then, so this would be, OpenLiberty could work, okay? And of course, since 1 year, you can use technology called SnapStart, which is related to Crack. So what happens is, if you deploy Quarkus on other runtime, it will be frozen on disk per availability zone, and then it starts twice as fast. Questions? No questions. So then, maybe, what happens right now is I'm cloning a project from my GitHub account. What I did in the train, I added another endpoint. I didn't test this, so it doesn't work. So you will have to use a version from yesterday, no, from day before. But what the idea is, this is my starting point to all my projects actually, and actually not conferences. This is what I'm using almost in production. I'm constantly, this is a good starting point. So what I know, the last time I took a look at what I did, and what you really like, this guy. It's the chief, right? Better than Duke. So I'm really surprised there is no crit tag. And I tried to find a picture. It's almost impossible. He? Oh, cool. And he has a friend, right? This was like the mouse. Yeah, also coming here? No. Oh, next year. So no budget, yeah. So what it is, I have to pick my Apple Vision Ultra. So what this is maybe we started first. We deploy the critic. And to deploy the critic, I just do faster a bit, because I would like to rename my resource and then explain what I'm doing actually. So, or we walk through the code and I rename it. So this is a little bit strange. Lots of, commented out code, and the reason being is this function URL is nice for conferences or for projects where you don't care about DNS names. So it is very cheap, but not usable in enterprise. Lambda API gateway is actually what I showed you right now. You can use HTTP API gateway or REST API gateway, and what to choose goes too far, but one is better for enterprise, and the other one costs half of the money, right? So I always started with the HTTP API gateway, was on the slides. And then ALB application load balancer you could also use. So you have a load balancer, the load balancer calls Lambda. Why to do that? Because this one, it is cheaper under heavy load, but if you have almost no load, you will pay 40 euros a month, fixed price. So you already see, so what we are doing highly depends on the enterprise project. So most of the enterprise projects are deployed with HTTP API gateway. It's the cheapest solution, means it can happen that it costs nothing. Function URL would be even cheaper, but the DNS name is ugly, which is not always acceptable. And the ALB stack is not exactly serverless, because you need to deploy VPCs and subnets, so there's more to do. But on the heavy load, you save 80% of money. So it's a huge difference. This is the reason why there's, and it is not worth for me to have a builder pattern or whatever, because we never pick two, right? This is either or. So this is, I can make it configurable, but what I do in my real world project, I delete what I don't need. So this is actually what happens. Questions? Everything crystal clear so far? Oh, the wizard is going. This was too much. Yeah, we talk afterwards. So what do we have? Function URL. He's a nice guy. We always have a discussion about the dependency injection, but now he said he's no more interested. So Quarkus Lambda, this is my class. And this is a little bit over-engineered, but because this is real world, but actually for a talk would be enough to show you this. With that, we can deploy Quarkus with Java and using Java 17. Which Java 17? This is what is currently available and tested on AWS. If I would go to Azure, I would use a different language called Bicep. That's exactly the same story. On Azure, there is Microsoft OpenJDK. I think this is the official name. And they will patch it for me. So this is why I don't have containers, which is really great for compliance and discussion with security department. Because they always say, what do you do? And give me your bomb or whatever. S-bomb, there are no S-bombs. We have nothing, right? So even better than before. So you have the function handler is the Quarkus here. So this is the entire trick. And the Quarkus dispatches the invocations to multiple endpoints. So, and this is a little bit sophisticated because what I can do here, I can activate the snapstart or not. On conferences, I deactivate that because it deploys faster. If you activate snapstart, it will optimize the entire JVM once per availability zone, and this takes time, okay? So now, oh, and why I opened that, almost forgot about that. I opened that because I would like to rename my function to Critic. And this would be airhex Critic. So 20 years ago, James Gosling would come, and now comes Critic, you know. This is, I don't know whether it's good or bad sign, right? But keynote speaker, okay. So build and deploy, don't ask, because otherwise we'll ask, okay, I will create these resources, should I really? And so this is a warning because the CDK uses have to update Node.js behind the scenes, and it's always red if you started as a Java developer. And so, but what I can show you, maybe can't build and deploy, build and, or is it in the IDE even? You see that that's all. So I'm using Maven twice, and it deploys. So there's basically it. So let's see. So this deploys the resources. Usually takes 70 seconds or something, but with the change yesterday, could be problematic. But let's see. Question so far? What? Yeah. You don't get anything else, so I can give you maybe my bottle. You have all my gifts. Mm-hmm. 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 Zip. Zip. Yeah. It's standard. I show you what happens. Wait a sec. I will invoke the thing, right? So first, curl t. Curl t is with time measurement, and I think I introduced time. And this is the very first cold start, 3.5 seconds, the entire infrastructure. And this is the subsequent invocation of the entire microprofile stack. And I think the other endpoint is hello. And so why I did it, because I get the question all the time, yeah, but Lambdas can be only one endpoint. We are in a project with nearly 200 endpoints, and it works. So there is no difference. You can pick your microservice project and run it as a Lambda. So we are misusing Lambda as a secure and cheap runtime. That's what happens, right? And I don't have to fiddle with YAML. This is the best one, right? So YAML is not, for me, is not a progress. I already dealt, with deployment descriptors, and I'm hope it's really very similar experience. So now about the code, right? So you were disappointed because the same code I showed you 7 years ago, but if you like, I can show you again. So this is Lambda, and if we open this, there is greetings. You see, this is plain Jakarta code. So there is no dependency on anything. It's just my microprofile app. And we are using microprofile on Quarkus on purpose. The reason being is Quarkus is crazy popular right now. So there are lots of extensions. But in my opinion, not all or most of the extension I would expect to die, because most of the developers are really excited the first 2 months, and then they say, okay, I don't maintain it anymore. But microprofile is microprofile. It is maintained mostly outside Quarkus. There's a project called Smallrai, so it's far more stable. And if Helidon, for instance, will support the same deployment, I will pick Helidon. Diversity is good, so I don't have to use, the Quarkus. But Micronaut is picking up, so this would be good because we could then have the same code and measure the performance. And now it matters what is faster, because the fastest one is the cheapest. So we are no more competing with whatever. Now, money talks. We have the test, and it is 10%. Even if it's no, let's say, from 1 second, and you say it is or 100 millisecond invocation, and Micronaut would be 10% faster, 10 milliseconds, I will pay 10% less. Whether it is worse or not, depends, right? Okay, so this is a regular application. And now the third question, Carlos was your name, right? Yeah, very good, you are hyperactive. So I'll show you something. Lambda, Maven, Quarkus, dev. What now happens, I'm launching the same application locally. So with Java, so I can say curl localhost 8080/time, and I get the same answer locally. So what it means is we can run the same application locally on bare metal or as Lambda or in container. And this is now the decision. Of course, in the cloud, it behaves differently. It is not, you have to know, you cannot cache in static hash map and expect that the other Lambda will pick it up magically. So this is, you have to know how it works. Request scope doesn't make any sense. Session scope doesn't make any sense. No application scope. But still, you can migrate fairly easy an existing monolith, which I really like. Also, by the way, for years I called my monolith microservices, and now I can call him monolith again because it became cool again. So you can run your microservice or monolith, whatever you have, as Lambda. And amount of classes doesn't matter. So in my current projects, roughly 500 classes, no impact on startup performance. Why not? Because Micronaut and Quarkus, they are eliminating, they have, how to call it, tree shaking, something like this, and they eliminate reflection. So, and this is also why Node.js and Python can really hardly compete with us, because they don't have such possibilities. So the larger the Node.js or Python project, the slower it starts. And Java doesn't care amount of classes. But you should be really careful with dependencies. If you know your dependencies are using lots of reflection, whatever, then it hurts. Questions? No questions. So surprisingly, this is working. What I wanted to show you now, Maven package. So Maven package. And what you find right now is that in target, there is function.zip. And what Quarkus did, it created the zip. Now the question is, why? How it happened? What is now the dependency? What is the magic in the entire project, right? And the magic in the entire project is the following. So we have here a Maven project. And one strange thing, this is one extension from Quarkus, which is active right now. And if the extension is active, it creates function.zip. If the extension is not active, creates Quarkus run.jar. So what it means is to have a Lambda deployment, you only have to add the extension to the Maven build. You can imagine what you do in production, a Maven profile. You specify with the profile whether you would like to have a Lambda deployment or not. Right? So this was also a portability question. Okay? Questions so far? And why not jar? Jar would also work, but Lambda is zip. I don't know. They like zip a little bit better. But just classes. If we open the zip, this is a zip file. But we have to note, at GeeCON, everyone is excited if I show zips. So XVF, I think, right? Yeah, zip. Next year, we will jars and zips. So this is now, I opened workshop already, preparation. And this is a function zip to workshop. So there is the libs, the function zip, and yeah, looks like that. The function zip is not there, of course. I copied this, but there is meta-inf, so there is, it is just, no, it is easier than jar. It is just, you zip all the classes. And it is easier because this is Quarkus inside. I use for regular lambdas just POJOs, so we'll see there's only one class which is zipped. No. And the reason is, it doesn't matter. And you can save money without GraalVM in this particular case. Here. What you see is, this is, I would like to have 2 transactions per second the entire month. And I dedicated 2 GB RAM. Why? Because you cannot buy CPU. If you have, CPU-bound application, you are buying CPU with RAM. So, and what it means is my Quarkus will probably need at most 200 megs. So I have 1.8 gigs of RAM free. Why you should optimize that with GraalVM? It takes forever and no impact. And if you have JVM, which runs all the time, over time right now, JVM optimizes better than GraalVM, so we can even save money. So it doesn't make any sense. On Azure, in premium SKU makes sense, and on-demand SKU also not. It really depends. So you see, all the decisions are driven by money in the cloud. On-premise, you would optimize, and we will talk about bits, and so I say, okay, if there's not a problem, if it costs the same, why we should, right? Very cool. Okay, so now I have to, see, agile, right? Oh, yeah. I wanted to show you some code, but about the performance and for what you will pay. So for this, I would like to show you the logs, Critec. Here's the chief. And you see the following. So this is the logs. And you see I dedicated 1 gig. By the way, 1 gig is half CPU. So I'm running on half CPU right now, not the full one. 2 gigs will be 1.7 is 1. Someone asked me why I know it. This is fairly simple. You can have the most 10 gigs of RAM. If you buy 10 gigs of RAM per function, you get 6 CPUs. And now you have to calculate down, The lowest RAM is 128 megs we can buy. And I see lots of projects which are running with 128 megs RAM. The problem is it is so slow that you can actually, in relation, pay more. Because Java starts with 120, with 1/11th CPU starts 20 times slower, I don't know what exactly the number is, than with 1 CPU. So it is a good start, just dedicate 1.7 gigs of RAM. You will pay 50 euros a month if you get called all the time, and this is the idea. But now, what you see here is the following. We have here, Quarkus started here with half a CPU in 2 seconds, the entire microprofile. And the first thing you see, init duration was very slow. I don't know why. 2 seconds is 2, but this is the entire infrastructure at AWS. And you see here, I was built 500 milliseconds. It means it took 500 milliseconds to boot Quarkus the very first time. And all subsequent calls with entire microprofile were 6 milliseconds. So my microprofile with config, with dependency injection, logging, and config were 6 milliseconds without any optimizations. And this is microprofile. I talk about this for years, right? So this is not like something special. I show you exactly the same code 6 years ago on your runtime. Okay? Questions? No questions. So then I'll show you more. Maybe we should talk about this CDK stuff here. Or whatever you like. Or let's see the wall, right? The wall I have. Yeah, someone asked, is it nicht the bad use case for Java? I would say the enterprise apps I'm working with, I'm still nothing happened to me. I'm still in the same boring project like 20 years ago. A database, create, read, update, delete. Not like I'm developing quantum computing applications with ChatGPT behind. No, it's still Postgres and enterprise and maybe Excel one time, right? So. And this means Lambda is not about high performance, I would say. Lambda is more about scalability. But you already saw with half CPU, it's still surprising how fast Quarkus is. And as long Lambda remains hot, right, you get the optimizations. Now about snap start I talk about. So this I didn't want to mention this, but this was the question. So in snap start, why does red? You don't like the question? It was actually a good one. It means it's answered, right? Or I like the question, so I didn't want it to. This is a thumbs up. So this is a very good question. So, so what it means is in snap start, what you can do, AWS will start Quarkus several times. And there is a crack means coordinated resource at checkpoint. Restore, I cannot remember this. Coordinated restore at checkpoint. And what it means are 3 methods, and you get called, and then you can load XML or whatever you have to do, and then the entire thing gets frozen, so the optimization, the first optimization is backed in, the first one. What about the cost of API gateway? The costs are significant under heavy load. If you have, I don't know, 2 transactions per second is not as bad. And the cost, you will need database as well. S3, it really depends. But if you use Postgres database, that's what we talk about because we opened the calculator. Postgres on Raspberry Pi, so 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM. On AWS, will you pay 350 euros a month for one? For 700 euros a month. So I mean, say if you take relation database, it is huge costs. If you pick DynamoDB or S3, you pay nothing first. So I actually had a slide about marginal costs. The interesting part in serverless, this first time in history of Java, we can go to management and say every call costs you 0.001 cent. If this call is ticket sale here in Cinema, and you have the margin of 2 euros, they absolutely don't care how expensive it is. That's the difference. So, and this is what we are doing. And the invoice looks different. In serverless, you will see, this function was invoked, not invoked, that many gigabyte seconds, and this function, this many gigabyte seconds. And because everything is in different accounts, you get an invoice per account, you will absolutely see ticket sales cost us, 2,000 euros a month. But I don't know, logs 20,000 euros a month, then we can say, okay, what's going on? Observability with serverless, relatively easy. There is an X-ray, which is basically like Jaeger or open tracing. And Lambda comes with Lambda layer. If you install the Lambda layer, you get CloudWatch Insights from AWS. If you don't like them, you can use, I think, Splunk, Datadog, or whatever you like. So, but we try to stick with cloud provider. Azure Monitor or CloudWatch Insights. Do you try to run Spring Boot as Lambda? Not me, but many tried, and they came to me and said Lambda is not usable as Java. It was too slow, but I didn't. This was just what I heard. And yesterday out they tried, and it starts not as fast because I don't know why. People saying Spring Boot is lightweight, so it should start fast, but obviously it doesn't. So, but in all my projects, nothing changed. I'm using, as I said, just Quarkus, and I would love to use Helidon or Micronaut, but they are not providing the JSON parsing capabilities. Also, the project manager of Helidon promised me that they will do this, and there is one issue, but it stopped. So the Helidon people have to implement this. So next time. How do you see using static properties as a cache in serverless? You could do this per request, right? Absolutely do this. As long as the Lambda is warm, it works. What I also use for caching in serverless, I store stuff in the temporary folder. You have, I think, 50 megs for free, and the file system is very fast, so you can also cache there. Where is PHP? I think it is so far down that it is not enough resolution to show PHP. So I think, I don't know. How do you deal with, how do you deal with the fact that Lambda only provides old version of Java? Java 17, okay. We started as Java 17 was not there. Then we created our own Lambda runtime with Java 17, but this is not serverless. We cared about, and we waited until Java 17 comes out. My understanding is AWS is afraid of the bugs in Java 21, so they are waiting. But we are using Java 70, this is true. So, so I would say we are not using Java 21 features. What I would really like to have is this destructuring, which is called, I think, officially deconstruction of records. But we cannot use it, we have Java 17, this is true in Lambda. The magic is just Quarkus, microprofile, and lambdas. The magic is just Quarkus, but I don't like to depend on Quarkus. This is why I use microprofile, and we use lambda just to save money. It's not why like we like it, but in a project they run. If you use Kubernetes, you're paying 75 to 100 euro just to have the Kubernetes icon in your console. It's not even started. It's just the control plane. And then if you start, the pods. So what will happen is the same Quarkus will on Kubernetes will cost you, I would say, 200 euros at least. So this is, if you show the cost difference, and there is no solution for testing, you cannot have the same. So I would say, for me, this is a little bit extreme point of view, but you have not enough time. So Kubernetes in the cloud, I don't understand it. Kubernetes on premise is great. This is if you build your own cloud, go with Kubernetes. But in the clouds, we have a cloud, and Kubernetes in a cloud, you have to you have to administer and configure everything twice. Yeah, very good questions, by the way. So you are all experts. So I would say, I think 100, 200 transactions per second. And the question is, because if you build, for instance, Fargate, if you use ECS Fargate, this is like container orchestrator, way easier and more reasonable than Kubernetes because very easy to set up. So you will pay roughly 50 euros a month for one pod. There will be like two CPUs and not pod, it's called task, 2 CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM, 50 euros. The question is how much traffic can it sustain? And you will need 2. So it means 2 pods because an application load balancer, you will pay 140 euros. 2 pods and application load, roughly. So the question is now, how much traffic can we have with Lambda for 140 euros? That's the math. That's the question. So we can do this fairly simple. We paid 15 euros, right, with 2 transactions per second. What do you have? Started 20 transactions per second the entire month. It's break even in our case, right? I think. Agreed? You have to. Who asked the question says yes. How do you correlate logs? It already happens with multiple lambdas because the CloudWatch, this is what you saw. There's a log stream. There's a 1 log stream per lambda. You can search in log group for all log streams, and they are third-party tools. One is called it's a paid tool. I have to think about this, which exactly does that. And is it feasible to run employee workstation entirely in the cloud instead of having each employee own? What do we pros and cons of this? Pros is, I mean, management is happy, and cons, we are unhappy, right? So this. So don't like it, right? So it's not necessary. What are the limitations? So the cold startup. The cold startup can be a problem for applications like TikTok, YouTube, whatever. In enterprise, everyone is happy that it starts at all. I would say, right? So I mean, this is like this is a complete different. If you go to management, you say once a month it will start 2 seconds. And you pay 50 euros instead of 500. Now is your decision. This is what I deal with. I actually don't care. So the code runs everywhere. But in my projects, the developers didn't, or developers knew, but management didn't knew that this is even possible. What I showed you right now. This is the deal. So I showed there's another possibility to run it, and you don't have to. But I will start with it because it is so simple. This is always a fun question. Who created already in the cloud VPC or VNet? On AWS or Azure or Oracle Cloud? Who did it already? Okay, and who liked that? No one, you see? So if you do it with Kubernetes, so you will pay the first day just to have an IP address, basically, right? So you have 3 VPCs, private, public, NAT gateways, internet gateways in the routing. So already you need 2 certifications to understand what happened. So if you have this, then you install ECR registry, and there's still no Kubernetes. So then it's over. Then you have to have the next stage is CDK 8S, it means CDK for Kubernetes. Then you install Kubernetes. Still no added value for the client. Now you have a cloud inside a cloud. So cool, now we have 2 clouds. That reminds me really, there were projects where Spring was started in Whitefly. It's like, why are you doing this? I mean, this is the same, almost the same annotations. Yeah, but we like the API. So, okay, then run Spring outside Whitefly, but not inside, right? So, and then you have to create, almost done, then I would say roughly 500 lines of YAML with a little bit of Helm chart, and then you are good to go. And here is nothing. You just push the zip as a Lambda, and everything is done for you. Now, about costs. How to resolve database connection and not overload a database. So not overload a database, you have to spend more than 350 euros. but the idea, there's another thing called RDS proxy. This is like a middleware, and it multiplexes the connections and improves the scalability and security. Costs a little bit more, maybe worth. What we are doing is we are not using relational databases in the cloud. Why? Or if I have to set up relational database in the cloud, I'm not interested, because it is not that easy. So you have to do the VPCs, subnets, then you have to install the database, you have to decide which hardware it is, EC2, you have to decide what is the maintenance window. Maintenance window means when the database is less responsive. Then you have to decide what is the backup time, and too much decision, so I pick a proprietary database, Cosmos DB or DynamoDB. And the interesting part, Cosmos DB or DynamoDB, they don't have connections. They have HTTP protocol. So it means we have one static field, which the HTTP client, and we are done. No connection pooling, right? And yeah. What do you like about record deconstruction? That it kills getters and setters. You know, like 500 getters and setters, and the architect says, oh, now we decoupled everything. So yeah, but we spent 2 days invoking getters and setters, and hope that one day it will be different, right? What to use when? Okay, Lambda should be asynchronous. So this is like a hack. Usually my Lambdas are, so this is one Lambda which just answers HTTP. All other Lambdas are asynchronous. And one Lambda should not call other Lambdas if possible, because you will pay for the entire cascade, right? So this is why I like monolith. So the solution is put as much to one Lambda. No kidding, it works perfect. And by the way, I actually, on my slides, there is an article here on AWS blog, because they are also always talking about single-purpose Lambdas, and I was like, you are all crazy. I cannot just deploy 20 Lambdas to have one CRUD application, right? I mean, this is why. And so I wrote a blog post, an article, and the official title was like, Fat Monolithic Lambdas Rocks, and they told me we cannot publish something like this. So they changed it to using Amazon Corretto OpenJDK for lean, fast, and efficient AWS Lambda applications. But if you read it, you will see that what I mean is the more classes, the better in one Lambda. With Java. For other classes, for other languages, I don't take any responsibilities. But for Java, it works well. So 500,000 classes is a huge business application, works perfectly. So now, 2 minutes. So what I did, I copied, Critic is, now we have serverless Critic the first time in Prague, I think, right? So you have to tell your children that Critic is green now, no more black. So this is a little bit sophisticated application, and I would like to explain you 2 things. I hope I answered all questions. If not, someone should say, hey, my question was not answered. So this is DynamoDB client. With AWS, no connection pooling, static, good enough. One thread works. It is get optimized at startup time, done. And this is entire CRUD. It is ugly, but cheap and very fast. The response time from DynamoDB is usually under 10 milliseconds. It's crazy fast. But if you see it the first time, everyone hates that. So after a while, some people love it, the others still hate it. So if you are database normalization expert, you will hate DynamoDB. And what we do in our project is called single table design. So there's a specific way to design the applications, and this works really, really good. But don't even try to have JPA for DynamoDB. This won't work. It would be way too expensive. So what it means is, this is crazy, but it works. You get one table per app, just one. So, and this you have to, yeah? The next, in May, in Krakow, we can do this, right? But right now, we should. So, and now, Java infrastructure as code, we do this the entire time. And workshop, completely wrong. Dynamo, CDK. What I just would like to mention, what I showed you right now is a Maven module. And whatever we build here can be packaged as a proper jar and deployed or installed in Maven repository, what I did here. So in Maven repository, what it means is, what we are actually doing, we say, okay, in our enterprise, if we build a department application, CRUD, we always need database, Lambda, DNS, certificate rotation, and whatever. And logs always have the same name, right? What we do, we create a Java class, wrap it, compile it, push it to Maven Nexus, and the developer just pull the dependency and say, okay, new project with the name, and everything is provisioned behind the scenes. Orders of magnitude faster than Terraform, and Terraform is crazy anyway. I mean, they don't even have if statements and for loops, so very good that they changed the license, because most of my clients lost interest now in Terraform, which is a big step forward, right? So, if you evaluate infrastructure as code, I would at least expect proper if statement and for loop, right? So Bicep has it, CDK has it, Terraform maybe works on it now for enterprise clients. Now, watch this. I'm creating a function. I create a table with Java, and now I say here, table grant, read, and write. It means only the function is allowed to access the table. What means all the roles and permissions are created by AWS. And what also means, because we are not working in AWS console, for code and compliance review, it is enough to look at the Java code. This is huge. So what it means as Java developer, with a little bit, business or enterprise knowledge, we are cloud native developers if we do it right. Actually, no one else can compete if you do it right. If you play with YAMLs and forget about business, it's a problem. But if you say, okay, think about Critic, right, serverless, and it will work. So I think we are over time. I have to look at the yellow page. What happens here? Sessions could work. Yeah, the session would be managed usually in, in Lambda it wouldn't work. But even if it would, the problem would be the load balancer. We will have to configure this, and this I don't like it, because you have to say if this is the J session ID whatever route here, which is problematic. What usually happens is the load balancer does the OpenID connect with your IDP provider. It creates a JSON Web Token, passes the JSON Web Token to Quarkus. Quarkus decrypts the token, and you can use standard Jakarta or microprofiles. You can inject the JSON Web Token, and the JSON Web Token is actually the state. So if you think about this, the stateful applications get the token, right? The question is very good. So, I mean, yeah, it's at least not red. Hot means if I click on it, did nothing. So not my fault. So any questions left? I hope you understood better. And my approach is, in the cloud, is very simple. Serverless, what means to me, summary, do we have time, or we have to go immediately? Come on, go. Very good. I was sweating already. So it was, what serverless means, right? Or what is my idea of the clouds? So we fiddle with the infrastructure for years on premise. If I go to the cloud, I would like to fully focus on business. It means I would like that the cloud provider do as much as possible for me, and I just write simple code. Only then we are competitive. Now, what it means is, instead of Oracle, Postgres, or MySQL to install and care about that, I can pick a proprietary database which is already there. If the database is already there, there is nothing to provision. I just say, give me the table. The HTTP API gateway was there, so I just give me, the gateway. If you have a clouds, the logging, you say, okay, I write to the log. I don't have to install my ELK infrastructure. And the one thing what I'm not using from microprofile are metrics, because for metrics, I will have to install Prometheus, which costs money, and I have to care about Prometheus. So instead of installing Prometheus, we are logging in EMF. This is like CloudWatch format, and the same effect, the alerts or metrics appear in the monitoring, right? So what I'm telling you, it is not nice, but it's cost-effective and very fast. And with that, there's a huge advantage. Just, lift and shift. Just, if you just pick your Kubernetes or whatever you have and push it to the cloud, my expectation is going to be more expensive, but not better. Why it should be better, right? This is actually no difference. It's the same hardware. This was about serverless. So, and this was you should start with it first, and if it doesn't work, you know, the fallback would be containers. But if you start with containers, you get already the problem: IP addresses, VPCs, security groups, and even knuckles. You have to care about the entire network infrastructure. And I have to do it in some project. It's never fun, especially not if I have to access, you know, the infrastructure via VPN or whatever. Is always a little bit problematic. Okay, thank you. Now, greetings to Kritek if it comes to the keynote, and next year with the mouse should also come. You can say okay. So thank you a lot. It was fun, and yeah, I hope it was a little bit different view. But they were the experts, so the questions were excellent. So maybe the next time I will code more, skip the slides, and, you know, business as usual. I will show you what I'm actually doing. Maybe better idea. Thank you a lot.